Hello, everybody. Welcome. And today we're going to be talking about design thinking for psychological safety. And we're going to be diving into people's favorite part, the brainstorming inspiration phase. Um, so, this is after you already did your design challenge, understanding what's the main issue here, after you did your user research, what's going on with people, why don't they feel safe, and really trying to understand them. Then you also got your insight of from all the research, and now you're ready to start creating ideas of what you might actually do. Now, the brainstorming phase, this is where we're just getting curious about what could potentially be solutions. So we're not defining a solution just yet, but we're thinking, what could happen? What could things be? So when we're thinking about psychological safety, you have a good sense of why people don't feel safe, where they don't feel safe. And now we start brainstorming on the idea of what could be maybe the best way for staff to feel more safe around each other, uh, feel more psychologically safe, feel more comfortable to open and share, feel more comfortable to challenge one another. And so now we're going to go into the brainstorming phase. And if you're working with a staff, I strongly recommend that you bring them in this stage. It helps them feel like they're actually a part of it. And when people are able to share their voice of what they would really like, it makes buy-in a whole lot easier. And you get more understanding of what they're really looking for. So in this phase, you want to bring people in, the people that you're really designing this safety, psychological safety solution for. Now, a lot of times people go straight into brainstorming, which is awesome. And a lot of times people don't feel really creative. And sometimes coming up with new ideas can be a little tricky. So, what we actually work on is inspiration first. So, instead of going to ideas, how do we get the mind to start thinking about things in a different way? How do we get people feeling creative? Now, a lot of people are like, I'm not creative. I'm not creative. Well, there are things that we can actually do to help get the creativity kind of to open up and start exploring. And one of these things that we do is looking into other worlds where they might already be doing a similar solution to the problem that you're facing, right? So if we're talking about psychological safety, maybe to get the juices flowing before we go into creating ideas, maybe we look into what are other areas where uh, they already work really hard to make people feel psychologically safe, or they make people feel more comfortable being open. So, for example, maybe you do a little bit of research into what do therapists do? What do therapists actually do to help people feel more comfortable and feel safe in a space? What about kids' childcare? What do people at a childcare facility do to help kids feel more comfortable and safe and free to open up? What do spas do? What does a spa do to help people feel comfortable and without a care in the world? What about people who create Zen gardens? What do they do to help create a space where people feel really safe and comfortable and at ease? What about a retirement home? What do they do to help their seniors feel comfortable in a space where maybe they might not feel so comfortable? Or a doctor's office. What do doctors do to help their patients feel really safe and comfortable in potentially very vulnerable scenarios? So, this is one of the things that you can do to really get the brain thinking in different ways. It's really helpful to not just look at your space wherever, if you're looking at what do companies do to help other companies do to help their staff feel safe, that's one area. And if you want to get really innovative, if you want to get really creative, if you want to think outside of the box, look at these different areas where people are coming up with different solutions to the same problem. And again, it's really just about thinking differently. what are some cool ways that maybe we can come up with to help people feel safe? So really going outside and getting those inspirations. And this allows for you to create something different rather than something that's very obvious. All right. So now you got the creative juices flowing. Now you're thinking about all these different things. Okay, now we're ready to start brainstorming. And so brainstorming is basically the idea where we're trying to get as many different ideas as possible that we could potentially do to solve this challenge, right? So again, we're not picking anything or anything like that. We're just simply identifying ideas, nothing more, nothing less. And this is often people's favorite part of coming up with all sorts of ideas. And so there are different processes and tools that we can actually take to help people move through brainstorming. So let's say you did what I talked about earlier, where you looked at all these different areas where people are helping others feel comfortable in this space. Well, what if you remixed ideas? What if you took a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B and put them together to make something completely new and different? So you can take things that are already existing and see how you might bring them together to create something different. Okay, so that's one way that you can start brainstorming. Another way you can brainstorm is a very simple exercise where someone shares an idea and then the next person goes, yes, and. So they take that idea and see how they can build upon it and make it even bigger. Another way to brainstorm is called crazy eights. So what you do is you have a piece of paper, you fold it up, I think it's 3 times, where you basically end up with 8 little kind of folded squares in that one piece of paper. And in there, what you do is you sketch out 8 ideas in 8 minutes, just going. It's purposefully quick so that you don't think too much and you just kind of go. And you're not really going for a beautiful Rembrandt or something like that. You're really just looking more for just sheer number of ideas. Another thing that you can look into is creating a mind map. So a mind map is basically you have a concept in the middle. So you could talk about creating psychological safety. And then you could start just shooting off ideas of like, what does cause psychological safety? Where do people feel psychologically safe? So you're taking the idea in the middle, and then you're trying to identify all the other elements that might compose of that. So you're visualizing kind of one's mind about how they view psychological safety. And so these are just some of the tools that you can use to brainstorm. And really, it's just about being creative, being open, get some weird ideas, get some interesting ideas, go wild, don't hold back. And if you create the right space for people to do that, that also helps create more psychological safety. So if you do these things, you want to make sure that the space itself feels safe. It's very meta. You want to create a safe space so that you can then figure out how you can create a safe space. And I want to give you some, I'd say, guidelines for brainstorming that we found to be really helpful. And so the first one is there's no judgments. No judgments. You're not judging anyone's ideas, and often encourage people not to judge their own ideas. If they have an idea, just say it. We're not looking for perfection. We're just trying to get open and creative. So no judgments. The next part here is to encourage wild ideas. When I'm working with teams, I say, throw a pony in there. I don't know what's going to happen, but just try to think of something different. Get wild, get crazy with it. So the more wild and crazy, the more opportunities we have to create an interesting, potentially really helpful solution. Also, when you're brainstorming, stay focused, right? You have the design challenge. It's very helpful to kind of keep that front and center so people remember, oh, that's what we're really focused on when we're brainstorming. And it's easy for it to get wild and hectic. So we really recommend just one conversation at a time, one person at a time, so it doesn't go all wild and crazy. Another thing that helps with brainstorming is to be visual. Picture says 1,000 words, and a lot of times it might be hard to articulate what we're saying or even really clarify it in our heads. So if we sketch things out, that can actually help us get a little bit more clear on our idea, or it can help other people understand our idea. And so being visual is something that really helps. And the last little helpful guideline here is go for quantity, not quality. You're not looking for the quality of an idea because you don't know if it'll work or not. So we're going to worry about quality later. But in this space, you're going for quantity. So sheer number of ideas. The more the merrier in this situation. So really trying to get as many as you can. And then what we do is after you've gone through all the brainstorming, after all the creative juices are done, then we take time to make a choice, right? There's a variety of ways to make choices, but one of the simplest ways is to kind of theme all the ideas together and then get people to vote. Vote on the ones that they feel might have the best chance of solving the design challenge, right? So solving the issue around helping people feel comfortable in the space. So which idea would help, we think, could help the team best feel psychologically safe when they're in a meeting or whatever it is. Now, the nice thing about the voting too, which again helps create a psychologically safe space as you're working on psychological safety, is that when you vote, you're not saying any idea is bad. You're just simply identifying the idea that we think would best help. So the whole process of brainstorming, if done right, can really help jumpstart people in feeling psychologically safe as well. And so that's what you can really do to get the brainstorming, the creation, the creative space started. Really, again, think about what are some, look for inspiration, and then start brainstorming a bunch of things, and then decide on which one you want to move forward into the prototyping phase. And we're going to talk about that in another video. And so that's what you can do. I just want to say, I hope that this was really helpful for you. And if you're looking to dive in a little bit more into this, we have a free resource for you in the description below. So go ahead and click that link. And it's a free guide on helping people create a psychologically safe space. So we talk a lot about the principles that we talked about here, plus much more. So go ahead and get your free resource by clicking on that link. And I hope that this was really helpful for you. Thank you so much for taking the time to check this out, and have a great day.